So, when asked, should Taiwan be a part of China? The answer, for me, pretty clearly is... What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Discover Taiwan. Now, in this segment of the channel, I want to talk a bit about the country I live in, which is Taiwan. And I wanted to take this first episode to talk about the question of Taiwan and China. So you always see people asking this question, is Taiwan a part of China? I've seen it in Google, I've seen it on Yahoo Questions, and posted online a lot. And in my opinion, it's not really a correct question. That's the first problem. The question should not be, is Taiwan a part of China? It should be, should Taiwan be a part of China? In everything but name, Taiwan is an independent country. It has its own money, it has its own laws, it has its own army, it even has its own elections, which of course are not really allowed in China. Should Taiwan be a part of China? When it comes to that, I've got a few thoughts on it. These are all my personal opinions as someone who's lived both in Taiwan and in China and really enjoyed the experience in both places. So I have nothing against the people of China or Taiwan. Now, we can't really talk about whether Taiwan should be part of China without first discussing the history. This will be very brief, just highlights basically. You can find a much more detailed history on Wikipedia, for example. So up until the 1600s, Taiwan was inhabited mostly by its Austronesian Aborigine populations. There's still quite a few tribes around the island today. In the early 1600s, the Dutch, the Spanish, the Portuguese, they all had outposts in Taiwan, with the Dutch eventually prevailing, up until 1662. At that point in mainland China, the Ming dynasty had been overthrown by the Qing dynasty, but there were still some people who were loyal to the Ming, and one of them was Koxinga, who took over Taiwan from the Europeans who were then living there. He only held the island for the Ming for roughly 21 years, and then in 1683, the Qing armies kicked him out. So at that point, in 1683, Taiwan belonged to China under the Qing dynasty. They controlled Taiwan for approximately 212 years until 1895, when they lost it to Japan. Now, Japan ruled in Taiwan for about 50 years, and then after World War II, Taiwan was taken from Japan by the international community and given to China. And at that point, the international community still only recognized the Republic of China, not the People's Republic, so the defeated Republic of China army came up and settled in Taiwan in 1945. Although nowadays it's not just the Republican Party, obviously there's elections, so there's people of all different groups and parties living in Taiwan at this point. So from that huge mouthful of history, we can actually see that Taiwan was only under control of China for about 212 years of its history, which is a tiny fraction if you compare it to the amount of time the Aborigines were here beforehand. So when Chinese people argue that Taiwan should revert back to Chinese control, what they're really saying is they want to go back in time to the brief 200 years in which Taiwan was actually controlled by them. But this doesn't really make sense. We can't really turn back history. Within that 200-year range, the United Kingdom had control of Australia, Canada, and the United States. Would it be reasonable for modern-day Britain to claim ownership of those three territories based on the fact that they owned them 200 years ago? No, it would be completely ridiculous. And if we are going to revert to an arbitrary point in time, why not revert to when Tibet was independent and not under the Chinese Communist Party? Oh, right, because that wouldn't make sense. Another argument often used by the Chinese as to why Taiwan should become part of their territory is that ethnically, the majority of Taiwan is Han Chinese. Leaving aside the fact that narrowing nationality down to ethnicity alone is archaic at best, and that this is completely disregarding the original inhabitants of the island, does this mean that Singapore should become a part of China? It also has a majority Han Chinese population. Not to beat a dead horse, but again, what about Tibet? It has a 90% ethnic Tibetan population, so why is it under Chinese control, following that same logic? There are some issues, unfortunately, for Taiwan regarding terminology. The fact that it's still internationally called Republic of China causes quite a few problems and confusions, as does the use of the term mainland. Every time people refer to the People's Republic of China as the mainland, they are implying that there is Chinese territory off the mainland, which is Taiwan. It reinforces and helps Beijing's point. Additionally, the One China policy is Orwellianly surreal and harms Taiwan as much as it protects it. A lot of this confusion and nomenclature could be easily solved by changing the name from Republic of China to Taiwan, but of course this would incur the wrath of China, who would never allow such a bold, if sensible, move. In conclusion, were Taiwan ever to be invaded by China, it wouldn't be the motherland reclaiming what's rightfully theirs, and it wouldn't be a grand reunification of some imaginary Chinese family. It would just be a large nation arbitrarily invading a smaller nation, no better than the US and European interventions in the Middle East. So, when asked should Taiwan be a part of China, the answer for me pretty clearly is no. Thank you for watching. I hope I haven't bored you too much with the political stuff, and it will be more lighthearted next time, I promise. Until then, try something new. Woo!